Yo, what's happening, y'all? Welcome back, OTB. Hope you're having a great Monday morning. If you're on your work, drive safe. Let's have some fun. If you're watching on CST, shout out, spread the good word. And if you want to get involved in the chat, youtube.com/1045 ESPN. Still got weekend winners coming up. We got a lot to talk to Austin Thomas about. But first, before we get there, let's break down some of this Kim Mulkey resume a little bit. You're seeing it now. I've typed it all out.
I mean,
from various sources.
I'll be honest with you, T. I mean, I thought I knew the resume. Obviously, I've followed her career. But when you actually type it out in print,
it's a full page.
Somehow makes it even more impressive.
It's a full page, and that's even yeah. Okay, well, let's just dive into it. So here is the reason why, because I've seen a lot of people like, are we really that excited about a non-revenue generating sport? Well, first of all, this is how you make it a revenue generating sport.
Can I speak on that just real quick?
Yes,
okay, so y'all heard me say last week, every single year that I was in school here playing football, the women's team made the Final Four.
Yeah.
And they actually made it 5 years in a row. And I can tell you that when we chose to go to games, we paid to go to, like, the women's games, right? Like, that is something, like, if our family was in town, like, they would pay to get tickets to come watch women's basketball because you had elite players, elite coaching. It was a fun product. So, yes,
you're going to win.
If you can win, people will go watch a winner. Beach volleyball, we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
That's not a sport that any of us really know a lot about. But what do? They win, and they have a fun environment. So people go to those games.
Yep.
People will go to winners, I promise you. So
if you win it, they will come. That's the bottom line. And, in fact, Baylor.
Trademark that?
Like that. And Baylor hadn't even made a tournament in the year 2000 when Kim Mulkey took over. And now they've consistently, for like a decade, been in the top 10, top 5 in attendance. So you're absolutely right. So Kim Mulkey was born in California, as I said, raised in Tickfaw. She was a star at Hammond High. She won 4 straight state championships. As if that wasn't enough, she graduates as valedictorian, because why not? She wins. She goes on to win 3 national championships as a head coach, 2 as a player, 1 as an assistant coach. In 1984, she won an Olympic gold medal as a player. She's the fastest coach in D1 history to reach 600 wins, as it took her just 700 games. That's faster than Gino Auriemma. That's faster than Adolph Rupp. Her current record is 632 and 104. She's been the head coach at Baylor for 21 years. In those 21 years, and again, remember, when she took over in the year 2000, they had not even made a tournament. In those 21 years, she has 4 Final Fours, 3 national titles, 19 tournaments. Out of the 21, went 40-0 in 2012, 23 combined Big 12 regular season and tournament championships. And in 2020, she was inducted in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Now, there will be a ceremony coming up in May in which Michael Jordan is actually going to introduce her, but the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is just the latest Basketball Hall of Fame. And she is also a member of the National High School Hall of Fame, the Louisiana High School Hall of Fame, the Louisiana Sports Writers Hall of Fame, the Louisiana Tech Athletics Hall of Fame, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, the Academic All-America Hall of Fame, the Baylor's Athletic Hall of Fame, and the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. So she's done pretty well for herself in terms of Hall of Fames. And how about this? Every single student-athlete that has started and finished their career at Baylor as a women's basketball player has a 100% graduation rate. So that's at Baylor. When she was with the Lady Texters, she spent 19 years either as a student-athlete or a coach at La Tech. During those 19 years, 11 Final Fours, 3 national championships. As a player, she was a key member of teams that went 130-6. So 130 wins to 6 losses, 2 national championships, 4 Final Fours. The list goes on and on. I mean, unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. And Danny, if you can get that Lady Texters black and white picture up there, the Lady Texters old uniforms were fantastic.
Solid.
But I mean, how about that? What did I just read?
This is, there's been coaches that have come in here and built their careers, and they've gone on, like, Nick Saban comes to mind, right, and what he's been able to do. But coming into LSU, this is the greatest resume that's ever come into a head coaching position.
Yeah.
In fact, you just don't get resumes like this to come into your program. And also, like I said earlier in headlines, someone that a year ago had a hell of a basketball team. So still at that peak of her coaching career where her teams are in it. They're in the NCAA tournament. They're in the Elite Eights. They're in these Final Fours. It's not like this was her resume back in 2002. This is a current resume as well.
Yeah.
So to get someone on this resume to come into your school, it just doesn't happen. I can say, oh, it doesn't happen often. No, this just doesn't happen. So this is, I mean, it's a big deal, and I hope everybody realizes
Yeah,
that.
it's one of the reasons why, too. It's such a feather in the cap of Scott Woodward, because it doesn't happen. And you're not supposed to be able to hire someone away who's having so much success at that school. I mean, who would have ever thought that she would have left Baylor really for any price? And for what it's worth, Baylor's handled it very classy. In all of their social media posts, they're all very thankful. Videos, both sides, it seems on the surface at least, like an amicable split, which is how this stuff should be handled. And if you're Baylor, of course it should, right? I mean, look at as I said, you never made a tournament before she showed up, and now you have multiple championships and some of the best teams of all time to your name. Now, from a pure PR hiring standpoint, Jay, kind of an accomplishment standpoint from Scott Woodward's perspective, this is a really big feather in his cap. Now, where it gets interesting is he's kind of used to doing this thing where he gets coaches that have had so much success that it's a bit surprising that he was able to lure them in. Our guy Aaron Torres actually pointed this out on Twitter. He now has Kim Mulkey to LSU, got Jimbo Fisher to A&M from Florida State, got Buzz Williams to A&M, and remember, he got Chris Peterson to Washington from Boise State, who nobody would have ever thought that was possible either. Peterson ends up retiring, but he had really good years at Washington before he did. But these were established coaches that he lured from one place to another. And so Scott Woodward, there's been a lot of drama around LSU lately. I think he needed a big PR win. I think this is that win.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Peterson takes Washington to the playoff and gets that program
They did
to
make a
be
playoff.
an elite team in the Pac-12. Jimbo does seem to look. He stabilized the program over at A&M. There's no denying that. And so they seem to be on their path. Buzz is the only one that hasn't really turned the program around, but Buzz taking over during the COVID year, and that's an uphill battle in that one. But to your point, I mean, when you see who he's brought in and where they were in their coaching career at that point, again, they were still in the thick of it. They were still in their prime. They still had a lot to give to their new school. And that's just impressive that you're able to get these names with these resumes to come over.
Yeah, I agree. And so we'll talk to Austin Thomas about it next. Of course, Austin Thomas working closely with Scott Woodward. Also, some LSU recruiting news to break down with AT and a new hire in the recruiting department. So if you want to hear about all that, we'll get a little behind the scenes LSU football. Keep it locked right here on Off the Bench.